Back when I was in college, I went to Florida one year for spring break with a few of my friends. It was going to be us 4 girls staying in a hotel near the beach in Florida. We were all very excited for the trip, as we had planned it months in advance. When spring break came, we all flew down to Florida together and soon arrived at the hotel. It was a pretty nice place, not fancy or anything, but was overall nice. We were up on the 5th floor, and the hotel was just a few blocks from the beach. For the story, I'm just going to give my friends very basic names, Jenna, Sarah, and Anna. So we had a large room for the 4 of us all to stay in, and it had plenty of space as there were sort of 2 rooms in it. There was a sort of living room area and then a bedroom and bathroom. It wasn't massive, but it was pretty nice. The first day there after arriving, we went out and did some fun stuff and had a good time. The second day was great as well. However, that night is when the story really starts. So I remember that Jenna said she was leaving to get something, I can't remember what, but she said she would be right back. Maybe it was another towel from the front desk or something like that. Anyways, she said she would be back soon and then she left out the front door. Probably like 2 minutes later, there was a knock at the door. I had realized that Jenna probably had forgotten a key to the room and she was knocking to get back in. Anna asked who was there and I told her probably Jenna. So Anna, who was closer to the door, just walked over and opened it without even looking. As soon as she did, I remember seeing this man standing there. He was pretty tall and I hadn't seen him before. He then started to walk right into the room and didn't even say anything. Thankfully, Anna had a good reaction. She saw him entering and quickly slammed the door back shut. The man thankfully backed up and left the room, or else he would have had the door shut on him. And Anna hit the lock to the door and then looked at me. We were both shocked. Sensing the commotion, Sarah then came over and asked what had happened. We all went around and looked through the peephole, and the man was now gone. As we were all talking about it, a few minutes later, Jenna returned. She told us that she didn't notice the guy out in the hallways, and she wondered if it was possibly a mistake. But I didn't think so. It seemed crazy how he saw us and then still tried to walk right in, and he didn't say anything either, so I didn't really think it was an innocent mistake where he just had the wrong room. For the rest of the night, he didn't come back or anything, which was good. The following day we went out again. We stayed out late and got back to the hotel at probably like midnight. However, I was hungry and so was Jenna, so I decided to order something on Uber Eats. A while later it arrived and I went down by myself to pick it up in the lobby. I was not thinking about the guy from the previous night. However, after I got to the lobby and picked up the food, I saw him again. The lobby was pretty much completely empty at this hour. When I started walking away, I saw the man turn and start to walk after me. I didn't even know where he had come from, but he now seemed to be following me potentially. So I walked back and headed towards the elevator. But I knew that it would take a long time to wait for the elevator potentially, so I decided to take the stairs instead. I walked past the elevators and down a hallway. As I did, I heard footsteps a ways back, still coming in my direction. It was just me and this guy out in the hallways. I made it to the stairwell and entered it. Then I started quickly walking up the stairs. As I had made it up a couple of flights, and I was about at the 2nd floor, I heard the door open to the stairwell below. The man was definitely following me. I hurried up and went faster. I couldn't see the guy, but I could hear him, and it now sounded like he was running up the stairs. So I started to run. I made it up a few more flights to the 5th floor. I didn't look back, and when I got to the door, I opened it and then sprinted down the hallway towards our room. As I was running, I got the key ready. When I approached the door, I heard the man then running down the hallway after me. I was able to unlock the door pretty quickly and then get inside the room. When I got inside and closed the door, I instantly looked out the peephole and then saw the man. He didn't try to enter the room, but he just walked away down the hallway. This guy was seeming like a big problem, and that wasn't the end of him. That very same night, I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of someone trying to open our door. I knew it was the same man, but it was more than trying to open the door. It sounded like maybe he was trying to pick the lock or something. I instantly got up and ran to the door and saw him there through the peephole. Then I called 911 and woke everybody up. I also called the front desk. Thankfully, an employee from the hotel came up to our floor pretty quick. This scared the man off and caused him to run away. By the time the cops got there, he was gone though. However, he was on lots of security footage and the police felt confident that they would find him. For the rest of our trip there, we didn't see him anymore. Still, it was a really scary experience for us. I'm not sure what would have happened had I not gone back to the room as fast as I did, or had the door not been closed right on him the night before. When I was in college one year, I decided to drive and visit a friend for spring break. We both had spring break at the same time. My friend attended a school that was about a 5-hour drive away from mine, but neither of us had any plans, and her college was larger and in a city with more things to do, so we made plans for me to stay there. She also had space at her apartment, which was nice. So I packed up a few things for the week and left my campus after classes and was going to do the whole drive that same night. My last class got out sometime in the afternoon, and so I was hoping to arrive by maybe 9 or 10 p.m. that night or so. The first part of the drive there was kind of a lot of traffic, but once I really got out there on the highway and it got past about 6 p.m., things started going really smooth. After driving for a really long time, I was out there kind of in the middle of nowhere. I stopped right off the highway at a rest stop to use the bathroom and also get some gas. When I went there, I was not there for a very long time. Something weird happened though when I left. I was inside the building and came back to find a car parked right next to mine when there hadn't been one there before. In fact, it wasn't that busy and there hadn't been any cars on either side of me for several spaces. This was not the weird thing though. When I got back in my car, as soon as I left, the car left as well. It was like as soon as I backed up, this car started and started backing up, and then when I started to drive away, it did too. I found that a little interesting, but still not too big of a deal. It could still just be a coincidence. So I left and got back out onto the highway, and the other car was behind me. It was probably like 20 minutes later when the car was still behind me that I started to think it was really weird and potentially suspicious, because I hadn't been in the same lane the whole time. I had passed a few people and stuff. I just had the thought that maybe the car was following me, so I decided to slow down and see. I was already in the right lane, and I went down to slightly below the speed limit. I expected the other car to pass me, and most normal ones would, but it did not. Instead, the car just slowed down with me and continued to follow. I was getting paranoid, so I decided to take the next exit, and I did. I made a random turn, not even knowing where I was. I was still about an hour from my friend's college. The car made the turn too. And then I had the brilliant thought to drive to a police station. I had to look one up on my phone, but there was one about 10 minutes away. So I put in the directions and then I drove there, and the car followed me the entire time. The car even pulled into the police station parking lot after me, but then it continued to drive through the lot and then left. When I saw the car go, I was relieved, and I didn't bother to go in and report it or anything, although I should have. Instead, I waited there for a couple of minutes and then I left and continued to my friend's place, confident that I had lost the person who had been following me. When I was driving the rest of the way, it seemed to go well. Eventually, I reached the exit of the highway for my friend's college, and a short time later, I arrived. I parked in the parking lot to her apartment building, and then she let me inside. Her place was on the 4th floor of the building. I remember that minutes after arriving, I happened to look out the window, and I noticed a car driving through the parking lot. It looked like the same make and model of the car that had been following me. The same color, too. I remember thinking to myself, that's a coincidence. But then I looked to the car, and the more I looked at it, the more I thought that maybe it was the same person. The car was just slowly driving around the parking lot. Then I saw it park in a space. I told my friend about what had happened, and we watched from the window. After parking, nobody got out of the vehicle. We watched for a while. Maybe 5 minutes later, a man finally got out. He then walked through the parking lot to the apartment front doors. However, he could not get in because they were locked, and he clearly didn't live there. The guy then just stood around the doors. My friend then yelled at the man from the window. She said if he didn't leave now, she was calling the cops. He looked up, and I quickly jumped back and out of the way so he wouldn't see me. I heard the man say something back, but I couldn't tell what he said, and neither could my friend. But surprisingly after that, the man walked away and left. I have no idea if he knew where I was going or was able to continue following me, because I'm not sure how he knew to go there. After that, I didn't see him again though. Still, it's absolutely crazy how he followed me for over an hour driving. And I will admit, after I thought I lost him, I didn't pay that close of attention to my surroundings. But I thought that I would have noticed if he was still following me, but I guess not. Years back, my friend Skylar and I went on a spring break trip together. We went to college together in a small town in the Midwest, where the weather was very cold. We planned a trip to Southern California for spring break. I remember that when we arrived, it was a lot of fun. Personally, it was my first time in California, and I enjoyed almost everything about it. There were some good beaches where we went, and it was just nice to be in sunny, warm weather and not doing school. A few days into the trip, and I remember that Skylar and I were on the beach getting a tan. Seemingly out of nowhere, this woman came up to us. She appeared very well put together, possibly wealthy, and invited us to a party that night. It might sound weird, and she mainly spoke with Skylar, not me, but she asked us where we were from and talked a little. She then invited us, saying it was an exclusive party and they were inviting people who seemed to fit the vibe. She then said that there would be over 100 people there, and there was going to be free drinks and it would be a lot of fun. Taking her word for it, we decided to go. Us being young college girls, we thought that maybe there would be a celebrity there or something. Plus, the woman seemed legitimate, like the party she had something to do with would be upscale. She even gave us a small laminated business card with the date, time, and address. So we went back to our hotel, and then that night at the correct time took an Uber to the address. It was almost 30 minutes away. We arrived and the address was hard to find. I'm not sure exactly where it was looking back because I don't remember exactly and I don't have the card, but basically it was in an area with tons of buildings and streets. We walked down a sidewalk a little bit to find the place. Eventually we had to walk down this sort of back alleyway. It was dark out and we were starting to question the whole thing. However, we then saw this door open. It looked like the door had come out of the backside of a garage or something, and that garage appeared to connect with a larger building. The buildings around there were hard to describe. Some of them looked like houses, some of them I couldn't really tell what they were, but many of them were modern. When the door opened, this man wearing sunglasses waved us to go inside, so we walked over and entered the building. When we got in though, the man quickly walked away. He went through this other doorway and didn't say anything at all. Then he shut the door behind him before we could even get close to it. And meanwhile, as soon as we got inside, it was pitch dark in there. You could barely see a thing. We couldn't tell exactly where we were, but it seemed like a sort of lobby room or maybe like just an entrance room. But once the man had left this room, it was now entirely dark, so you literally could not see a thing at all. The door that we had entered through closed as well. We tried to get to the door the man had gone through, but now couldn't find it because we couldn't see. Eventually, we did get to it, but it was locked. We took out our phones and put our flashlights on. It revealed that we were in this very small room, probably about 20 feet long and 10 feet wide. It was still hard to see even with the flashlights, and the walls were this black carpet material and the ceiling was dark colored too. Even the doorways had the same wall as the rest of it with the carpet material, so it was really hard to tell where the doors even were because they were basically hidden and blended into the walls. We had just barely located the handle. We tried knocking on that door, but nothing happened. We tried yelling as well, but got no response. By this point, we were sketched out and decided to just leave. The card had no number on it or contact on it. It simply said the date, time, and address, which I think we were at. We felt around the wall for the handle of the door to leave, but when we finally did find it, that seemed like it was locked too. The floor was also this black carpet as well. It was really strange. We started to panic and began yelling and banging on the walls. It felt like we were locked in there. Also, our phones had no signal in there. It was like the room was blocking it. Both of us kept banging on the door to get out, yelling and fiddling with the handle trying to open it. Eventually, out of nowhere, after like 5 minutes of this, it just opened suddenly. We both went back out into the alleyway. It was almost like the door had been locked and somebody had unlocked it. I'm not sure what happened, but when we got back out, we ran out of there to a busier street. We then took an Uber back to the hotel. We never reported it or anything. I wasn't even sure where it was. Unfortunately, we dropped the card at some point in either the room or maybe the street, so we really had no evidence or anything. I still don't know what was going on there, but it was really weird, and I'm glad we got out when we did. This happened back when I was in college. I went to a university a few hours from my parents' house, and I lived there. For spring break one year, I didn't have any plans but to go back home and hang out. It was nice to have a break from my classes, and I left campus and went back to my parents' house. For an entire week, my only real expectations were to get a lot of sleep and to play video games in my bedroom. My older brother had already finished college and lived across town, so I was now the only one living there aside from my parents. After a good relaxing weekend, I began my weekdays of relaxation as well and started gaming. My parents both left for work in the morning and I was home alone and in my bedroom. This was upstairs and at the front of the house. I had a window that overlooked the front yard and the driveway and stuff. So as I was in there gaming, probably about an hour after my parents had left to work, I randomly saw a car pull into our driveway. The neighborhood is pretty average, so I thought that it was just a car that was going to turn around and drive the other way. The street is usually quiet, but there's a lot of houses around, so an occasional car is not a surprise. However, the car stopped and was sitting in the driveway for a while. I didn't recognize it and had no idea who it would be. My next thought was that maybe it was a door-to-door salesman of some kind. I had no plans to answer the door if that was the case. I continued to watch out of curiosity. A guy wearing a hoodie then exited the vehicle. Most of his head was concealed by it, other than his face, which I didn't get a good look at from my angle. The man then walked up the driveway, but turned to go towards the back side of the house and not the front door. This was really suspicious. He was quickly out of my sight, and I wondered what was going on. I then decided to leave my bedroom and go look. I went to a window upstairs that overlooked the backyard. I saw the man standing in the yard and looking around. Then, after like a minute, he casually walked back around the house and then over to the front again. I switched back to my room. Then I watched the guy walk back to his car and then get inside and drive away. I was really confused by this. However, he didn't try to enter the house or knock on the door or anything, so I pretty much just moved on. I did not tell my parents, and I played video games all day, forgetting about it. However, that same night I stayed up late gaming, which is no surprise. My parents had already gone to bed, and I was back in my bedroom in the same spot. It was probably like 1 o'clock in the morning or so. I remember that I heard the sound of a car driving up towards the house. I looked over once again to see a car pulling into our driveway. Now this seemed really suspicious, and I remembered the car and the man from earlier. This looked to be the same car. I felt dumb for not telling anybody about it. I watched the car stop once more and then turn off. After a short time, the door opened and it was the same guy, even wearing the same thing. He then started walking around the house again. This time, I left my bedroom and went downstairs and went to a window that looked out back. By the time I got downstairs, though, I heard the man trying to open our back door, which was locked. Then I heard him walking towards one of the back windows. I turned on a light and then turned on the back porch light as well. As soon as I did, I heard the man start running away. He went back around the house, got into his car, and then drove off really fast. I was unable to get a license plate or anything, which I felt stupid about, but I did call the police and report it and told my parents as well. The rest of my time at home that spring break, nothing else like it happened, and the man was not found that I'm aware of. But I'm really glad that I noticed the guy when I was home. If I had not been there, he may have been able to break into the house without my parents knowing. The first time he went there must have been scoping it out, but the way he did made it seem like he had been there before. Perhaps when I was gone at college he did. Maybe he knew my parents were both gone at work and didn't take me into account. I'm not really sure, but I'm just glad that he left when I turned on the lights. Something crazy happened a couple of years ago during spring break. My friend Emily and I went to the beach for spring break. We're not from an area that had beaches at all, so this was a great experience. We went to the ocean literally every day and had a great time there. There was also a lot of other people there, with it being spring break time for many schools. One of the days, after laying out on the beach for a long time, Emily and I left, but then realized that I forgot my phone at the beach. I'm not sure how exactly that happened. I think I just didn't see it and forgot. So when we were at our hotel, I realized, and then we went back to the beach and tried to find it. We also saw if they had a lost and found or something, but had no luck. So then Emily decided to call my phone. When she did, surprisingly, somebody answered it. My phone did not have a passcode at the time for some reason, so you could just go on it. After answering the phone, Emily asked who it was, but there was no answer. She told whoever was there that they had my phone, but the person still said nothing. Still, somebody had to be on the other line for them to answer. We heard nothing at all from them. Then, after maybe 30 seconds, they hung up. We tried calling back, but had no luck with that. Whoever had the phone didn't answer. So at that point, I felt bad about it and figured that I should just get a new phone somewhere the next day. We tried calling back again later, and Emily sent a text as well asking them to return the phone, but there was no response to anything. We went to bed that night and hoped for the best. However, in the middle of the night, I remember waking up. As soon as I did, I heard the distinct sound of somebody trying to open the hotel room door from the outside. I was instantly wide awake. I got up and walked over to the door and looked through the peephole. There was a random guy standing there who I didn't know. He then knocked on the door, and I saw him holding my phone in his hand, at least it appeared to be my phone. Had he come to return it? The guy looked sketchy, and I didn't think Emily had given out our address or anything, so how was he here? I decided to take a chance. I yelled from the other side of the door, "Is that my phone?" The man looked up suddenly like he was surprised, but he didn't say anything. I told him that he could just put it on the ground. I was nervous to open the door. He still did not say anything, and he did not put the phone on the ground. I asked him if he wanted money. He still said nothing. I almost opened the door, but thought better of it. By now, Emily had woke up and came over to see. This guy was being really weird. I wanted my phone, but he wasn't communicating at all. Then the man finally spoke. He said to let him in and he would give the phone back. I made up a random excuse on the spot to try to get him to not come in. I said, "My dad is sleeping in here. I don't want to wake him up." As soon as I said that, the man turned around and just started walking away. It was like when he realized I was possibly with my dad, he wanted to get out of there, which made him only seem more suspicious. After that, he was gone. However, Emily looked on her Snapchat and saw that my location was shown as being there at the hotel, so that meant that the man was on the app. I thought that he would not give me the phone back. However, the following day there was a text back to Emily. It appeared as though a new person had the phone. The text said that they had just found the phone on the ground next to a sidewalk. They had picked it up and saw the text when trying to find the rightful owner. We met up with this person who was a completely different guy. I think the original guy dumped the phone after realizing he couldn't get in the room. I'm glad that he did, but the whole thing was really sketchy.